I got confused for a second. Thank you for clarifying.
No. That's what role play is for. That's what we do in classes for those who are not in Sweden. But if you are in Sweden, not taking chances and being scared and being like, no, I'm actually just gonna switch to English and ask for a cup of coffee, it's sabotaging yourself basically. So I definitely think if you are in the target languages country, you should be really trying to immerse yourself and just to try and talk to people, especially in a country like Sweden where people are patient. They're not going to hate on you or they're not going to make fun of you, at least not from my experience. So I think it's really important. It's also really important just to, like I mentioned earlier, between the lessons to find something you like, because if I'm making you listen to a podcast about literature and you don't like literature, then there is no point in that. But if you like rock music, like I said, or if you really love children's books, or if you really like cooking, then I as a teacher am going to help you find some sort of content, some sort of source for that to be your contact with the language between the classes, of course, minus the homework and studying and everything else in between.
It's funny because in my case, I did exactly that for English by copying YouTubers. I would speak alone in my room, just like a YouTuber that I was watching. Like I would watch Pokemon videos and be like talking like the YouTubers, explaining all the Pokemons. And it sounds ridiculous because you're alone and you're speaking like a cartoon character, but trust me, it does wonders. I would suggest people to copy YouTubers. Please copy.
Can confirm.
That actually brings us to our next question about content creation. So, you are also a content creator. It would be super interesting for us, maybe or hopefully also for our audience, to know like how did you first start with this? What was the first thing that really led you to the point that you were saying, okay, I'm gonna post about this now?
It's actually perfect timing for that because my Instagram profile is turning 5 this week. So it's been 5 years since that first post, actually, which is crazy now when I think about it. But yeah, so me and my good colleague, my good friend from university, we were kind of playing with the idea of just sharing love for Swedish. Honestly, we didn't really plan on having a super massive career or something like that with it. We were just thinking how there isn't any profile in Serbian that was talking about Swedish. Of course, there are profiles in English, but we were thinking, okay, but what about people like us? From this area, from this region, who maybe are interested to hear about the language, the culture, the history, literature, whatever. So we kind of decided just one day, okay, let's try doing this, let's try sharing it. And now it's been 5 years and I've learned so much from content creation, of course, from first years when I didn't even share my face on there. I was just like a unknown person, just a silhouette, to now being able to actually build sort of a brand, I can say, online, which is really cool.
And that's fantastic because one of the major advantages of being able to make like content and growing an audience is receiving feedback from said audience about your current teaching styles or your content. So have there ever been moments, in your opinion, where feedback from your followers clearly improved either your teaching or the way that you should explain something?
Of course. Actually, because of people commenting on my posts, my ideas, I started filming videos or reels in Swedish. So at first, I was only filming in Serbian, of course, because it was targeted towards the Balkan audience. But I have also started, people who were like, please, how about you film something in Swedish and then put the Serbian subtitle? I was like, okay, I can try that. And people really liked it. So I kept doing that still, which is really cool. And also a lot of ideas come from comments, from messages like, hey, can you please explain this in one of your videos? Or hey, please, can you just help me what to do with this? Or what to do with that? Or how to say this, or how to say that? Or it's really great to just build relationships with people online.
Yeah. And it's just like because at first a lot of people, because I as a little bit of a side note, I went to an event, like we actually went to an event recently called Expo Lingua, which is like this convention where a lot of different communities of languages, like companies and entrepreneurs come in and they share their love for languages. And I got the ability to talk with a lot of content creators that have been very successful in the space. And one of the things that the language community has that I was really impressed with, because my experience wasn't with the language community for a long time, it was a different type of creators, was how everybody in the community is so welcoming and very eager to share their culture and eager to share what they love. It's very different from what the type of communities that I used to talk with. They were definitely a lot more competitive. And it's such a wonderful thing to see how these communities, whether big, like 800,000, a million, 2 million followers, and even much smaller, like despite the fact that there's such a big difference in audience, the overall feeling is always very similar. It's very cozy. It's very fika.
Exactly.
I think it's very fantastic to see how many different creators can take something as easy, like something not easy, something as natural as languages, as something as universally recognized, and can turn them into not only a successful online career, but also into a very welcoming and very varied community. And honestly, I'm very, very happy to see all of these creators. And that's why Connected by Language as a show also kind of started to get to know this community in a much more direct way, and it's so glad to see my theory is somewhat correct.
And if there's somebody out there of you who's listening at the moment and who loves languages, who would really actually like to try that and create some content, what are a few things you wish you had known in the beginning, maybe about growth, consistency, and also not burning out, not letting it come very close to you?
I would say one mistake that I made that I mentioned was that I wasn't there with my face. So I wasn't building relationship with people, directly. So I would suggest to actually put yourself out there if you are making content, because people want to know who is talking, who is writing this post, who is explaining them something or sharing something. They want to know your story. Some of my most personal posts, some of my most personal stories about my journey or my family or my influences and so on are some of the most welcomed posts I've made. So I think building a community in the beginning is really important, and also honestly just sharing what you're passionate about, because I think a lot of people might not be necessarily that interested in Swedish poetry or Swedish literature, but I'm still gonna talk about it because I care, I like it. So, I'm gonna take that as an opportunity to share with people, and maybe one of them is gonna think, hey, maybe I can read this book. So I would say to, of course, be consistent, but also to let your inspiration go and to share what you're passionate about. And there are gonna be people just as you and who are willing to actually, participate in that content and read and comment and just support you in any way they can. So it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, it's worth it, especially nowadays where there's so many ways to fake content online and not have that sort of authenticity. You have programs where you can click and generate millions and millions of videos without really any care in the world. Having that sort of haven of authentic content, even if it's not the most universally appealing, it's always welcome, I think. I don't know if you all agree with that, but
Absolutely.
yeah. But I think we're actually coming into the last question of the show. So maybe you want to do the honors, Michelle.
Okay, thanks. So, as a final thought here, so if someone listening is thinking about learning Swedish, Serbian, or another language, what is one thing from your journey that you would like them to know, like to think about?
To So I feel like I'm gonna repeat myself, but
Maybe more specific, like in times when it gets hard, what could you recommend them to do?
listening to music.
Very straight to the point.
Exactly.
I thought it was gonna be something more like experience and let your inner passion flow. No, listen to music. Okay, right. I can do that.
It really is like that. Every time I feel like I'm struggling. I mean, that is my personality in general. I really like music. I think it's like a safe haven a lot of times for me. But I really think that it's such a nice way to be in contact with language, to hear the language, to hear the melody, and also to have fun. So during those hard times, I always say that to all students or everyone who's just starting to learn, find someone. There is someone out there just for you musically, and you can connect with them, and it's gonna make your just language journey so much easier because you're always gonna come back to them. You know, maybe I had a rough patch with Swedish, but I was gonna go back and listen to Ta mig tillbaka by Dörr, and I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. I understand everything, or I want to understand everything by the end. So I really do think it's a nice thing to do.
Wow, listening to music. What a wonderful way to kind of encapsulate an entire language into one word. And I think, yeah, I mean, language is to some kind of like a universal language.